Mr Speaker, the OECD, the Savings Working Group and others have pointed out that we need to make the economy more competitive and lift national savings. Currently, most businesses and households have successfully lifted their own savings. While that has hurt retailers for now, in the long term it is a good thing. The main sector not saving is the government. The deficit in 2010-11 will be large at $16.7 billion or 8.4% of GDP. This includes a range of one-off costs, including the earthquakes. The government believes there is a strong case to eliminate the deficit faster and target a lower level of public debt. This is for a number of reasons. The fallout from the global financial crisis of 2 years ago is gradually receding. The recent fiscal expansion, which began in the mid-2000s and saw nominal spending rise 50% in just 5 years, has placed much strain on the economy. Exports, growth and productivity have all stagnated. Finance costs would otherwise rise unacceptably, squeezing out more worthwhile spending. Rising debt leaves the government vulnerable and less able to meet future shocks. A AA+ credit rating is on negative outlook with 2 rating agencies. And productivity growth over the past decade has been less than a sixth of that in the 1990s. For all these reasons, stronger government finances are an essential component of moving to sustainably higher growth and job creation. Mr Speaker, the budget forecasts show that while government spending will increase, it will do more slowly than projected previously. Core Crown spending is forecast to rise from $73 billion in 2011-12 to $77.1 billion in 2014-15. The budget identifies $5.2 billion of savings over 5 years that will be redirected to frontline public services and to reducing the government's deficit. New operating spending of around $4 billion over that period is tightly prioritised to health and education, which together receive 3/4 of total new spending. The net result is a saving of $1.2 billion in operating spending over 5 years from those parts of the budget funded by new spending allowances. Mr Speaker, part of the adjustment involves examining programs where costs have expanded rapidly in ways that weren't anticipated and without commensurate value to the community or taxpayers. KiwiSaver, Working for Families, student loans and ACC are all examples where cost escalation has occurred. The government is committed to all these programs. With modest adjustments, they will emerge more effective, better targeted to those who really need them and aligned with what the economy can afford. Mr Speaker, the government has looked closely at KiwiSaver. KiwiSaver is now well established. It has nearly 1.7 million members and is gaining about 20,000 new members each month. KiwiSaver funds provide a pool of long-term capital which can be invested with relative certainty. KiwiSaver balances are currently around $7.9 billion. Of this, about $3.5 billion has been directly contributed by the government and the balance by individuals and their employers. In 2010-11 alone, the government will contribute $1.2 billion. At present, KiwiSaver's contribution to national savings is ambiguous. It helps individuals to save for their retirement, but it means the government is borrowing, mostly from foreigners, to contribute to private savings. This does not lift national savings. A better approach is to have New Zealanders actually saving for their future. To achieve this, the budget makes the following changes. The default and minimum rate of member contributions will increase from 2% to 3% from 1 April 2013. Employees will retain the option to opt out. The rate of employer contributions will also increase from 2% to 3% from 1 April 2013. The member tax credit will be reduced to 50 cents per dollar of individual contribution, with the cap halved to $521 per year from the year ending 30 June 2012. This change will be reflected in payments to KiwiSaver accounts from the second half of 2012. The exemption from the employer superannuation contribution tax will be scrapped from 1 April 2012. This exemption is regressive in that those on higher incomes receive larger subsidies. Existing kickstart payments will remain unchanged. The combined impact will be to see KiwiSaver inflows largely unchanged, but funded more by private savings and less from the government. The fiscal saving to the Crown will be $2.6 billion over the next 4 years. KiwiSaver remains an attractive subsidised investment. The government is planning to contribute $650 million next year and $2.5 billion over the next 4 years. These changes put KiwiSaver funds on a sound footing. On current projections, KiwiSaver funds will total $25 billion by 2015 and nearly $60 billion in 10 years' time. KiwiSaver funds are well placed to participate in the mixed ownership model, which I'll come to shortly. Where state-owned enterprises raise outside equity, New Zealand investors will be at the front of the queue to invest. We expect KiwiSaver funds to become substantial long-term holders of these investments. The decisions to lift default contribution rates, to keep KiwiSaver membership voluntary and to remove the employer superannuation contribution tax exemption were all recommendations of the Savings Working Group. Mr Speaker, this budget makes changes to Working for Families to better target assistance towards lower income families and to put the scheme on a more sustainable footing. Working for Families will remain essentially in its current form. The changes consist of small adjustments to the abatement threshold and abatement rate and a gradual alignment of the over 16 rate with the 13 to 15-year-old rate. These changes will be phased in over 4 steps as family tax credit rates are adjusted for inflation. This is a very gradual transition which is expected, given current inflation forecasts, to take 8 years. Lower income families and beneficiaries will be largely unaffected by these changes, and the majority will get an increase in their Working for Families payments from 1 April next year. A number of families higher up the Working for Families scale, however, will receive a little less than they currently do now, or will no longer qualify. In most cases, the impacts will be small. To put this in context, total Working for Families payments have almost doubled in the past 5 years and are forecast to cost about $10.7 billion over the next 4 years. These changes represent about a 4% trimming of the scheme. Mr Speaker, the budget also makes changes to the student loan scheme. Once again, the scheme will continue in essentially its current form. This year, the Crown will lend almost $1.6 billion to assist students, up 50% over the last 5 years. There are currently more than $12 billion of loans outstanding. However, at present, for every dollar lent out, the government receives only around 55 cents back in 2011 dollar terms. Budget 2011 tightens the lending criteria so that the scheme is better focused on those who really need assistance. The measures tightening borrowing conditions for those aged over 55, for part-time students and for those already overdue or in default of their payments. There are a number of additional changes. The estimated operating and capital savings over 4 years are $447 million. The Crown still expects to lend students a further $6.5 billion over the next 4 years. Mr Speaker, the public sector has a wider role to play in lifting productivity and national saving. Over the past 2 years, the government has signalled the need for the sector to become more efficient and has been mindful of the large increases in most budgets that have occurred in recent years. In its first 2 budgets, the government successfully reprioritised $3.8 billion of spending into higher priority areas. In Budget 2011, $980 million of efficiency savings will be sought from the public sector over 3 years, starting from 1 July 2012. The government will require agencies to fund the cost of KiwiSaver and some state sector retirement schemes for their employees. This will generate savings of $650 million. At present, these contributions are centrally funded and not visible to public sector employers. A further $330 million in back office savings will be sought from 31 core government agencies. The savings are part of the ongoing improvement that the government expects and are consistent with the adjustment that households and businesses have had to make in recent years. Mr Speaker, one area where the benefits of cost reductions are already apparent is ACC. Over the past 2 years, ACC has successfully controlled its previously runaway costs and delivered better results from existing spending. One immediate benefit is that the government will need to contribute $638 million less to the non-earners account over the next 4 years than previously projected. ACC members and other accounts will also benefit, with future levies also trending lower as a result of the cost savings within the scheme.
Very good start.
Mr Speaker, I now turn to the budget's main new initiatives. The largest share of new spending has been dedicated to improving core frontline government services. The health sector will receive $1.7 billion of new funding over the next 4 years. In addition, a further $500 million of expenditure has been reprioritised within the sector. District health boards will receive the bulk of this funding, including around $400 million in the next year alone. This will fund a wide range of initiatives, including care for first-time mothers, widened access to medicines funded through DHBs, additional elective surgery, increased disability support services and training more doctors. Mr Speaker, the government's commitment to raising education standards remains strong so that all young New Zealanders reach their potential. The budget provides an extra $1.4 billion for education, including over $100 million of new capital spending. In addition, a further $356 million has been reprioritised. This builds on the past 2 years' investment in early childhood education, in national standards and in the youth guarantee. Early childhood education also receives an additional $550 million.
Order.
Mr Speaker, the justice sector is to receive $157 million in new funding in this budget to ensure access to justice and increased public safety. There are significant initiatives elsewhere where a strong case was made for additional funding. Statistics New Zealand receives $58 million of new funding to rebuild 20-year-old IT systems to ensure the ongoing supply of important economic and social data. The Irrigation Acceleration Fund has been expanded with $35 million of new funding over the next 5 years. This will help support the development of new water harvesting, storage and distribution infrastructure. Budget 2011 provides significant capital and operational funding to strengthen delivery of school and community-based Māori language initiatives, help schools to engage better with Māori students, improve literacy and support kura kaupapa Māori.